I like to think of it like music. If you take the same bus to school every day, right? Remember taking the bus. If you play heavy metal music on that bus, there's 3 kids in the back that are like, this bus is awesome. This is my favorite bus. And every day they get on that bus, and every day they're like, man, I love this bus. This is the metal bus. This is my bus. And then somebody tells the driver, hey, this is 3 people's bus every day because you keep doing the same thing on this bus every day. And I am so glad those kids have found a place. But, you know, maybe if Tuesday you played R&B, and Monday you played country, and Wednesday you played some hip-hop, and Thursday maybe you played some jazz, this could be everybody's bus, but on different days.
Black People Swimming, the podcast where we dive into culture, celebrate community, and explore the waves we made throughout history. We chose the name Black People Swimming to highlight how we're breaking stereotypes, showing that African American students can thrive and excel in advanced courses while making our mark in every space we enter.
The questions in this show were inspired by the article In Search of Cultural Themes and Their Expressions in the Dynamic of Classroom Life. The lead scholar is the late Dr. A. Wade Boykin, an African-American psychologist, scholar, and professor who dedicated his work to understanding culture and education.
In this episode, we explore the cultural value communalism, as defined in the article. We're especially excited to welcome our very first guest, Mr. Moore, a seasoned educator with over 20 years of experience shaping young minds. Let's give it up for Mr. Moore. And to start things off, can you tell us what subject you teach and what you like most about it?
Sure. I teach English here at Hinsdale South since last millennium, so about 1999. Right now I teach English 1, AP Lang and Comp, and Black American Lit, and Rhetoric. What do I like most about this? That's where this gets good. If you asked me in high school what would my dream be, I would tell you like a Porsche and have everything that I would want. And if you ask me now, I would say this. Like, just watching you guys even grow up, remember what you were like as my freshman, and then just watching young people make the world their own, believe in what they thought they could do, and then watch them accomplish that. So I couldn't be happier to do this job. And it's not really about English. It's not about subject-verb agreement or whatever we're doing that day. It is about you guys. So thanks for having me on.
What were your initial reactions to the way Dr. Boykin and his colleagues defined communalism in their article, and what stood out to you the most?
I felt like, as an American, right off the bat, I felt like, okay, we're getting into it, because this American tradition that we're really used to is, it's me, it's mine, how much can I get for myself, how do I compete against other people? So I was taking a step back, right, to see somebody who is in the 21st century arguing the notion that we got to think of the good of the community before just getting everything that we can out of the community. And I was also excited, but as a teacher, the first thing that I missed was how much community gives to us, like the why of this. And I get that Boykin says it's not about what we expect to get from it as a like give and take. Like, I get it. You don't give to your community because you expect to get exactly something back. But you should know that when you give to your community, you do get so much back in terms of your identity, the way that you feel about yourself, the importance that you have to how an idea that's bigger than you can grow. And I feel like that was something that I really wanted to see in this, so that kids get this isn't like some communism, capitalism, ism. It's not about isms. It's about how we feel good when we're connected to something that we believe in.
I never thought about it like that. Like you said, like not expecting like a actual reward, but instead like how people will view you. I never thought that's a good way to think about it.
Either. Like, yeah, no matter what, like you are getting something back.
Something out of it, because
it's not what you're expecting.
People's opinions change on you. You wouldn't know what you're getting out of it, but yeah, I like that. Is communalism something you embrace in your own life? And if so, can you share a couple moments, situations when being part of community feels most important to you?
Sure. I was real fortunate. When I was young, the community kind of swept around and took care of me. So I was in a situation where I was raised in foster families, and from my earliest memories, there were neighbors coming together. There were families that I'd never met before. Teachers in schools really helped come around and take care of me when I needed care at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. So I can't think of a time that I didn't benefit from being part of a community, for sure. All the institutions in the neighborhood where I lived, I'm from New York. I have the great luck of being from New York because it's an amazing place. And I would say families, schools, churches, and the Carver Community Center, like everything around me was based on the notion that we're working together to make something happen. And for a long time, I was the beneficiary. I was like the freeloader in a system of community. And you don't feel like that when you're like 5 years old. But I got taken care of so well within a community that I've always had a strong sense that we should be building communities and that we owe something to a community even if we don't expect to get something, as Javon said, right? Like that day, that year, or whatever. Yeah.
Well, the next question was who taught you the importance of looking out for others, but as you just explained, you had a lot of teachers. You had a lot of people leading you through the way.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a shout-out reel, for sure, like Jack Washington, Skip Acox, Lana Masucci, the Guytons, the Nelligans, just a million different families and individuals that stepped in.
We can go to my question because I wanted to know, like, what do you think happens when people feel disconnected from the community?
I think there's an irony in that question. When people feel disconnected from communities, they end up creating communities of disaffectation. So they go out and they find other people because we're so communalist. Even if when we want to say we're not communalistic, go online to like the worst part, 8chan, something like that, like the worst part of the web. And you know what you're going to find is a bunch of people trying to create community out of disaffectation. And so what I would say is we try to find that, the joy of that potentiality, right? And you hear it like in hip-hop too, right? You hear counterculture, but then you hear bonding in counterculture. And then you have the opportunity to take those people who have been pushed out of a culture, pushed out of a community, and then say, well, okay, let's form a community that does have something to it, where there is acceptance. And so every time I hear there's disaffectation from the community, you got to also say to yourself, well, where's the opportunity now to make a new community, to hear the complaints, the concerns, and people will join. People want to be part, or at least I believe that. I believe that even the people who feel like they're left out of a community have an opening to join a new community from that.
That's really good. I once again, that like opened some stuff up for me. Like I tend to think like I have a lot of thoughts and I have some strong thoughts about stuff, but like some of the stuff you're saying now, like you're turning the questions into like, like a bigger understanding, like such as the question was like when people are disconnected from a community, and you turned it into like those people that are disconnected from a community, they tend to form their own, and
Yeah, I also think that connected back to what you said, like to one of the first few questions, where it's like, it's just not, like you still have a community, it's just not what you were expecting. Like, no matter where you are, you're always going to have a community. So I liked how you looked at it.
Yeah, me too. Like how I look at it. How do you balance helping others with taking care of yourself?
Great question, because if you don't take care of yourself, you got nothing to give to other people. Probably if you know me well, if we've worked together for a while, I'm going to work out. I'll come to this school at 5:30 in the morning, 5:45, and exercise. I'll work out between periods. So if I have a lunch 6, 7 like I do right now, before I see my 8th hour class, because it's the end of the day and I'm worn down, and I'm supposed to bring a certain amount of like leadership energy into the space, I will exercise for maybe 10, 15 minutes. So I think for me, I'm just a physical person, so that's how I recharge. And I know everybody who has a role, and hopefully you guys heading off into college in a couple of years, you're going to try to create spaces like this. This is what I would hope. And you guys are going to come up on that problem yourself. Like, I'm burned out. I've been doing so much for this team, this group, whatever. Give yourself space. Give yourself, like, half an hour, and then figure out the thing that actually works for you. But don't, unless it really works for you, don't doom scroll. Don't just sit on your phone and just find a thing that takes up the space. If you bought yourself 30 minutes, and give yourself that 30 minutes, whatever it is that you like, you know? And if you really do love that game, that, you know, that music, that whatever, yeah, absolutely guilt-free. Now you've got that time, and that's all for you. So yeah, find what you love and give yourself that time.
That's really good for me to hear, coming from a teacher at my school, a teacher that, you know, that I've been taught by. That's great for me to hear. I know all teachers aren't the same, and you know, but it gives me like hope in the other teachers, not just in Hinsdale South, but like in the world, because like you letting like us know that, like, well, for me personally, like one of my biggest things is like if I don't get along with the teacher, that reflects how I am in the class.
Community is tough, and a classroom requires a lot of operational thought. Like, how can I turn this group, 29 or 30 people, into a community? So I would say sometimes I found it, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I had community with the teacher or with a group of students, and we didn't have it with the whole class. I'd say my favorite moments were definitely rooms that had a full personality of their own. And I was talking to Dr. Williams about this one day, and I said, look, if somebody walks in the door and you in the class can say something to each other, and the person who walks in the door has no clue what you're talking about, they're like, what? Because you and your class have like an inside joke. You and your class have a climate where you know things about each other, your experiences. That's probably a good start, right? Not just because laughter is a good start, but because it shows that you've all really shared some moments together, have some memories together. And I would say that happens sometimes, but not that often.
Yeah. I did have a question for you, because as a member of like one of your classes, like I can tell that you do take community and like trying to make sure everybody's comfortable, but at the same time like making sure like work is still getting done. So how do you think communal values sometimes can clash with like a traditional classroom expectation?
It depends on the educational community. So if my educational community, like Hinsdale South is my educational community, and if my educational community doesn't value a blend and balance and understanding that like every kid in there's experience matters personally, socially, emotionally, academically, then there's going to be a clash. But if the whole community understands that, like, some days are this way, some days are going to be a little bit more class building, a little bit more team building, maybe a little bit more students engaging actively, even loudly a few times, then I think there isn't going to be a conflict, right? But I think if the community as a whole just has an understanding of one type of teaching and learning, that you come in and it looks one way, it sounds one way, it works one way, there are going to be a lot of conflicts, because to really build community in the space, you have to be ready for the students to be going a slightly different direction than you planned when you walked in the door. And so things might turn out differently than you expected, and that's a real challenge for us as educators, right? We walk in and we're like, this is my second time teaching this today. I expect it to work exactly this way. The room, though, the kids, the energy, the environment, or the understanding in that particular group is different, and now you're going to change up everything that you were going to do. And, how does that fit back in with, like, this class has to keep up with that class, this class has to be where that class is at, we got this big test coming, everything else. So that question really unties another question. What are we doing every day? What are we doing? Why am I throwing 3 different essay types, maybe 12 essays a year, vocabulary, grammar, and everything else at you? And if I believe and you believe that we're all in that place, we come into class every day because someday you guys are going to be amazing, and you are going to have this self-empowerment to get whatever you want out of life. And that's different for everybody. But in that room, in our long term, we are just there to shape a version of you that fits your goal for what you're going to get. Then we can expect that that's going to be a little odd from day to day, because everybody's going to need something a little bit different. Like, sometimes I'm going to roll right over your priority to get that different priority in place, right? That's just going to happen because I think I want to see you have college credit before you get to college, and I'm going to change what you thought you might do that day. But sometimes you guys are going to have a way of coming at what we're going to do, and I'm going to say, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's better. My Black American Lit just the other day, we were about to just get back to reading, and then a student said, wait, let's all make a prediction, because I think it's going to be this. It's a mystery novel. And we just took a 7-minute detour, and it was the most fun that we've had, because now every time we're reading and something pops up, 2 or 3 students are like, ha, I told you, it's that guy. And like, we all know each other's choice now. So we're reading this novel together, and it changes the way that we're reading the novel. But yeah, it took 10 minutes at a time. To come back to that, if you work in an environment where everybody believes that those side quests, those little ideas that don't directly lead from point A to B, that don't necessarily in that instant get us from 18% of kids' new subject-verb agreement to 22% of kids' new subject-verb agreement. If you're in an environment where that everybody can accept that, then there's not going to be a clash at all.
It's all about just like staying flexible and being able to just pivot like with your class. I get that.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot because like classes like your class, like I haven't had you since freshman year, but like even then, like we had like an even balance. Like, okay, like he was crazy all the time in the class, so like it caused like a lot of like stuff, but like you were like really like, I feel like you connected with the kids a lot more than a lot of other teachers in here, which gives us like yeah, like we talked a lot this day, but we know tomorrow we actually got to work because today we were like messing off today. But like because we were messing off today, we feel like, yeah, we got to give Mr. Moore today because we were messing off yesterday, so we actually got to do work today. And I feel like teachers that know like that perfect balance, like, kind of makes you want to go to class because like, I want to say this, like, because there's classes like, boom, 5 days a week, I'm going to be doing work, homework. And then there's some classes where, boom, we're going to mess off, but we still going to, like, get some work done. And we're going to mess off, get some work done. So there's that happy medium where, like, yeah, I want to go to that class because I know I can, like, mess off with my classmates, but I still know Mr. Moore has this, what's the word?
You're still going to, like, learn something?
Like, he still has something that he knows that we need to do, that he knows we need to do if we want to go where we want to go to. And I think that happy medium is like some of the best classes that I have when they have that happy medium.
Yeah, like I feel like a lot of teachers just want their day to go smoothly and want their third period to be exactly like their first period, but like there's things like you can't expect high school students come in first period and then comparing them to kids that are coming in your class like after lunch or just, you know, being with their friends and stuff. And then in general, people just have different personalities, or people just have different friends. You know what I mean? Like they have their people in a different class. And like you said, I feel like teachers can't like expect everything to just go like so straightforward, and you know, because teachers that do try to force that too hard, then the class becomes, oh yeah, like Elijah said, like we're just working, and then you don't look forward to going to that class because yeah, you know you have something to do. At the end of the day, you're most people are gonna do it, but like, you know, there's no fun in like school's not always supposed to be fun, but you should. I feel like when teachers want their kids to, you know, enjoy coming to the class, that's when the class really becomes like a communalistic like vibe.
I feel like when you enjoy the class, it's easier to like want to work instead of like there's some classes where like I'm working all the time. I don't want to be here. Me not wanting to be here. Of course, I want to get good grades, but like I don't want to be here. I don't really want to do the work. And then it's like classes like where there's a happy medium. Where like there's a happy medium. The least I can do, he lets us talk. He lets us goof around. The least I can do is do his work the best of my ability.
Yeah.
Speaking on like different personalities and like everybody just being different, how do you think like a student like who like truly values like community working together might feel in a classroom that like is so focused on individual performance? Because I've had multiple classes where it's like you go in the class, you're watching a lot of videos, a lot of self-learning, or you're learning a lot throughout homework. So, like, how do you think that could affect someone who, like, truly values that, having that happy medium, like, working together?
Yeah, I think you're always hoping that a kid is resilient, and you go, okay, well, not every spot is going to match exactly what I need. And I think we have to understand, everybody's going to have their own way of running a family, running a classroom, running a career. On the other hand, I think one thing that can help ameliorate that is let's mix it up. Let's encourage within the community. And I mentioned, I love a classroom community. I think it's my favorite thing in the world to have a classroom. Like 26 kids that you have for half a year is probably my favorite thing. But if we want to think about this school as a whole, we could help fix that problem. Because I think that kid is going to feel dissatisfied, right? That maybe they'll go through the motions, maybe they'll turn in some things, but they're going to feel like an emotional hollowness. And I think we can fix that easily because every day doesn't need to be communalistic. Every day we don't need to celebrate communalism, engage in the notion of, building a community spirit. Here some days we'll do things one way. And I like to think of it like music. If you take the same bus to school every day, right? Remember taking the bus. If you play heavy metal music on that bus, there's 3 kids in the back that are like, this bus is awesome. This is my favorite bus. And every day they get on that bus, and every day they're like, man, I love this bus. This is the metal bus. This is my bus. And then somebody tells the driver, hey, this is 3 people's bus every day because you keep doing the same thing on this bus every day. And I am so glad those kids have found a place. But maybe if Tuesday you played R&B, and Monday you played country, and Wednesday you played some hip-hop, and Thursday maybe you played some jazz, this could be everybody's bus but on different days. And I would say that if there's a whole class that's running 180 days without some notions of communalism, let's work on that. Let's let this class be this kid's space at least now and then, and do some group, some team, some projects, some activities that bring everybody in. Let's come up with some group goals that we even measure and work on together. Let's do some things differently occasionally. And we'll all be out of our comfort zones as teachers doing that for sure, But we do this for 35 years, so it's probably good to pick up some new techniques.
So, on the topic of communalism, I've been a student in your class, at least only my freshman year, and I absolutely loved the environment. It was something that could not be replicated, and I would honestly tell, not to just tell you because you're just here in front of me, but I've told so many people that honestly your class might have brought me into the world of learning, and to love learning as I do now. But as I progress through the years, the classes that I tend to take have harder topics, and these harder topics it's hard to create a community of communalism when the topic is so unforgiving. And in the classes where the topic is so difficult, how do you introduce communalism into a class where if you miss a day, then it's you get thrown off a cliff and you don't know what's going on?
Good question, because I feel like in my own experience, a thing I need to get better at is developing communalism in the more advanced classes, and I'm probably better at it among freshmen, maybe in some of my electives, than in AP Language and Composition, where you're right, exactly. The concepts are really tough. I would say first, though, I bet you guys are doing some of that work yourselves. I bet you got group chats. I bet you have found your way to use community to your own advantages in order to help each other out, right? So that's a good strength that you've got already. And as teachers, we should recognize that. I often mention in my classes, I'll say, hey, if there's a group chat and you want to put this in the group chat. So if I'm writing a lot of notes on the board or something like that, I know that you guys have that going on. So that's a place to start, to recognize, to embrace that you guys are making communities on your own and kind of thriving in those communities. As a teacher, though, as often as possible, if you start with your space designed for groups, that's probably going to encourage you, even subliminally as a teacher, to move kids into groups and to spread that understanding through. I mean, we learned something called Vygotsky, and it's this psychologist who said the best person to explain something to somebody who doesn't get something is somebody who just figured it out. They'll know exactly what to say to pull that next person over the line. So I would say the best place to start is with your room. Kids who have been in my room probably know I'll move that room around 2 or 3 times a day just to match what's going to happen in the classes that I got coming up. And so, yeah, use your desks, use your placement, use your students. Sometimes you might have to shake up your groups. Sometimes you need to manufacture what's going to work best in that group. If you do have that kid that missed that day, put them by that kid who shares those notes. You know, try to figure out how that team is going to work together. Also, I'd encourage people to, until the kids give you some reason to push back against it, allow a certain amount of choice in how those groups form, or negotiate a certain amount where you want to control everything, but see what happens, because sometimes 2 kids who get along together, that's not a bad sign, you know, and you can build off of that. You might need to redirect it. Sometimes, especially, you know, with my younger students, I've needed to redirect that idea that 2 kids can distract each other, but those 2 kids probably are a good kernel of a group that you can grow in there that help each other out.
That's one thing I can say that I've loved about. I think you allow people to you give them a chance to find their communities, and then even when you see okay, I see everybody's getting a little comfortable, let's switch it up a little. So I do yes, finding your community, being where you're comfortable, but at the same time you never know if you'll be comfortable with these other people. So you mix us up and you force us. So that's one thing I can say. I have loved about being in your class.
And most teachers tend to just immediately the first couple days they see 2 kids, because most teachers tend to give you choice in the first few days to where you can pick who you want to sit by and stuff. But then they see that that's your friend, or you guys laugh a lot. But they don't know when you get into the hard work, that's the person that's going to be giving you notes when you miss days. That's the person that's going to be whispering in your ear when you don't know what the teacher's talking about. Most teachers just want to completely shut that down, put one kid in the back, put one kid in the front, and that's not always the way to go. Sometimes it can get too far, I agree, but sometimes that's what some kids need to do better in the class.
And you guys have good suggestions for how I should do my thing. Honestly, I've done it for a long time, or I have a vision in my head, but it's not the only way I can see doing it. We're professionals. If you come in and you say, hey, could we try it this way? I don't think I have a reason necessarily to think, no, that's impossible for us to do it this way. And if you listen to musicians will take a song that they played for years and they'll be like, I'm going to play it in a different key live. And they can do that. We can do that. So push a little bit. We might negotiate you off for a day, but we might say this is going to go this way. But I hear you. We need to do something. We need a game. We need an activity. We need something that gets us. We need a project. We need some way. We need to act out. We need to act this out. We need something else. Sure. And I think you can say that. I think that's fair, right? I think that's fair.
Coming from a student who's never took a class, like a lot of my peers around me, or somebody who's never, been in a setting where you tend to promote these you tend to promote communalism more than other teachers, what would be your advice to some of the staff in Hinsdale South to promote communalism and try to help students bond together in such a way that they feel safe coming to school and having that time to plant themselves in their class as their safe space, or this is the place I feel like I can prosper the most because my teacher allows me to.
And I think, first, the fact that you're asking that question is super important, and then I just need to go back and amplify that question. Maybe it's not advice as much as repeating the question. Can we do this more? Can we allow students more room to feel like their identity is known in that room? People in this room know who I am. I'm able to express who I am. There is space for me to to work with my classmates so that we all get this sense of who each other are. The last thing that any teacher probably wants realistically is kids in May saying, "You're in this class," or "What's your name?" or something like that, right? I don't think any of us want that. So my advice for teachers might be, let's avoid being in a place where kids in March are saying, "I wish I had gotten a chance to know my classmates," and more than anything, I wish I had had a chance for my classmates to know who I am. Because I feel like the question that you're asking me is, behind that all is, I wish I were in more places where I felt more valued and known.
Oh yeah, the bell's gonna ring. I just want to say thank you for coming on to the podcast today. I really appreciate your outlook on life. You changed my perspective on a lot of these topics, so I really
Agreed.
want to thank you.
I agree. Thank you so much, Mr.
Give it
Moore.
a round of applause for Mr. Moore.
All right, thank you guys.